It's a fine specimen here, and we've actually got a real one now, found only a few miles up the road. They're a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. These sorts of things are not found very often.
For 20,000 years, this cave stayed locked away from the world. Time sealed it shut, so that nothing went in or out. Scientists thought nothing could survive there, but when they finally opened it, they found something still alive, a discovery that raised serious questions about life itself. How could anything survive in isolation for so long? Join us as we uncover the truth about adaptation in living organisms. An underground world locked in time. A sealed ancient cave is a part of the Earth that has been shut off from the outside world for a very long time. An environment that doesn't get sunlight, rain, wind, or movement of outside air and water. Instead, the cave stays isolated underground, surrounded by rock and earth that stop outside forces from reaching inside. Because of this separation, the cave becomes a completely different world from what we see on the surface of the Earth. Some caves have been sealed for millions of years and have very special life forms and conditions inside. Most caves begin their lives just like other underground tunnels in rock. Over long periods of time, water and underground rivers eat into limestone or other types of rock. This slow process can form large chambers and passages. In the case of caves that become sealed, the outside landscape changes and covers the opening with soil, clay, or other materials. In some caves, the rock around them stays intact and thick, so nothing from outside gets in for millions of years. In others, natural processes like shifting earth can block off the cave forever. Because sealed caves do not receive sunlight, the conditions inside are very different from the surface. There is no light, so it is always dark. The temperature and humidity are often steady because the cave is protected from weather changes. In many caves like this, the air may hold very little oxygen and high levels of gases that would be dangerous to breathe outside. For example, inside one famous sealed cave called Mobile Cave in Romania, scientists have found dangerously low oxygen and high carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, far different from normal air. Because of these conditions, life in a sealed cave must adapt in unusual ways. Organisms that live inside cannot rely on sunlight, which is the main source of energy for plants and nearly all life on the surface. Instead, some sealed cave ecosystems are built on chemosynthesis, a process where bacteria and microbes make energy from chemical reactions instead of sunlight. These bacteria use chemicals like sulfur, methane, and ammonia that come from underground water or gases. This kind of life is completely different from the green plants and algae we know. One key reason scientists find sealed caves interesting is that they act like natural science laboratories. Because these caves have stayed cut off from the outside world for millions of years, the life forms inside have evolved on their own. This means they have changed in ways that are very distinct from organisms outside. Some cave animals lose their eyesight because they never need to see in total darkness. Others lose their color or develop longer limbs or feelers to move and hunt in the dark. This kind of change is called troglomorphism, a term scientists use to describe physical adaptations to cave life. Sealed caves also help scientists learn more about evolution, the long, slow process by which species change over time. Because a sealed cave keeps its own separate system, scientists can study how life adapts when it is isolated from the outside world for many generations. These caves can show what happens when species have no contact with other populations and must survive using only the resources inside the cave. For example, unique bacteria may evolve that can live solely on chemical energy. These adaptations teach scientists how life can change in response to extreme environments. Because sealed caves do not get sunlight, yet still support life, they serve as models for places beyond Earth. Scientists wonder if similar environments could exist on planets and moons far from the Sun. For instance, caves under the ice of Jupiter's moon Europa or Saturn's moon Enceladus might have similar chemical energy sources as those in Earth's sealed caves. If life can survive in Earth caves without sunlight, then maybe it could also survive in extreme places in space. This idea pushes scientists to explore how life can exist beyond our planet. Sealed caves are often also very fragile places. Because they have unique ecosystems, even a small change from outside could harm the organisms that live there. That is why scientists who study these caves must be very careful. They usually enter with strict safety procedures and limit the number of times they visit to avoid disrupting the cave's natural conditions. In some sealed caves, researchers must use special equipment to breathe safely because the air is not the same as surface air. Access may also be restricted by government or scientific authorities to protect the life inside. There are many types of caves that hold life in different ways. Some caves that are sealed by sediments can preserve not just living organisms, but also ancient remnants of ecosystems. For example, some sealed chambers have preserved animal remains, plant fossils, or even evidence of Ice Age ecosystems that would otherwise have disappeared. These hidden underground worlds are like nature's own time capsules, preserving stories of life that have been written far away from the reach of the sun. Evolution without the Sunday. A long time ago, long before modern cities and cars, Earth formed enormous caves deep underground. Some of these caves stayed hidden for thousands or even millions of years. They were cut off from the outside world. In rare cases, such caves stayed sealed so completely that nothing from the surface got in for tens of thousands of years. When scientists finally open these ancient caves, they sometimes find surprises that help us learn about life and Earth's history in ways we never expected. One such discovery happened in early 2026 when teams of archaeologists and scientists were working in a famous rocky area on the southern edge of Europe. This region is known as the Rock of Gibraltar. It is a tall limestone cliff that rises out of the sea near the Strait of Gibraltar, the narrow passage between Europe and Africa. The cliff hides many tunnels and caves beneath its surface. In January, researchers found something new, a chamber that had been sealed for about 40,000 years and had never been seen by modern humans. This cave chamber is part of a larger network called the Gorham's Cave Complex. The caves in this area are famous to scientists because they were used by our close ancient relatives, the Neanderthals, millennia ago. Neanderthals are a species of humans that lived in Europe and parts of Asia long before modern humans, Homo sapiens, became widespread. They became extinct around 40,000 years ago, but they left behind tools, bones, and evidence of their daily lives in places like Gorham's Cave. When the archaeological team found this new chamber, they realized it had been completely blocked by sediments and rock that had sealed its entrance. This meant that no one had been inside for about 40,000 years, nearly as long as the Neanderthals lived in this region. The fact that the rock and material closing the chamber were untouched made this an extremely rare find. It was like discovering a hidden room in a house that had been closed up since ancient times. Inside the sealed chamber, scientists made major discoveries. They found tools, bones, and other objects that helped paint a picture of how Neanderthals lived their lives. Some objects suggested they hunted birds and marine animals, and used shells and feathers in ways that were more advanced than previously thought. While no complete skeletal remains have been found yet inside this specific chamber, the combination of artifacts and tools shows that the space was likely a place where they spent time gathering, processing food, or resting. The cave opening in Gibraltar also contained evidence of deep engravings and marks carved by ancient hands or tools. Some researchers believe these marks may represent early forms of abstract design or symbolic language used by Neanderthals. Because this sealed chamber was untouched for so long, these engravings and findings offer a cleaner view of Neanderthal behavior, without later human disturbance or mixing of objects from different eras. The team used careful techniques to open the cave without disturbing what was inside. They documented each layer of sediment and rock before removing anything, so they could understand the order in which things were left there. This process is slow and careful, but it is necessary when digging into such kinds of places. Because the cave had been sealed for so long, it acted like a time capsule. This gives researchers the chance to learn more about how Neanderthals hunted, what they ate, how they made tools, and how they used their environment. While this discovery doesn't involve microbes or tiny organisms being alive inside the cave, it is still deeply connected to the idea of ancient life still being present when discovered. The objects and traces of human life inside the sealed chamber give scientists direct evidence of how life was lived thousands of years ago, without having to guess from scattered pieces or disturbed sites. It is as close as modern people can come to seeing Neanderthal life as it was. Scientists also hope that continuing work inside the sealed chamber will reveal more clues. Because the cave has been untouched for so long, it may contain intact hearth sites, food remains, animal bones, and even microscopic residues that tell us what Neanderthals ate or how they processed materials. Advanced technologies like microscopic analysis and chemical testing could reveal even more about the daily activities of these ancient humans. Another interesting part of this story is that the sealed cave offers a chance to reevaluate the timeline of when Neanderthals lived in this area. Some of the evidence suggests they might have lived in and around Gibraltar longer than previously thought, possibly overlapping more with early modern humans than earlier estimates showed. This can affect our understanding of how Neanderthals and modern humans interacted or even exchanged cultural behaviors. Each new discovery brings us closer to learning the story of life on Earth and the many forms it has taken. Superlife, the limit of existence. Deep beneath the surface of the Earth, in a place so hot and wet that it feels like both a fairyland and a furnace, there is a cave that has amazed scientists for years. This cave is called the Cave of the Crystals, and it lies inside the Naica mine, deep in the Mexican state of Chihuahua. It is famous not just for the enormous selenite crystals that grow there, some as long as trees, but for something even more remarkable. Tiny forms of life that have been inside the cave's crystals for tens of thousands of years. These organisms appear to have survived in total darkness, without sunlight, without air like we know it, and in conditions that would end most life. Scientists say these microbes are among the most extreme examples of life on Earth that we know of. The Naica mine itself was discovered accidentally by miners more than a century ago. At first, workers were focused on extracting lead, zinc, and silver from deep underground. But when they pumped water out of a massive chamber, they revealed something no one had expected. Inside, they found walls and ceilings covered in gigantic crystals of gypsum. Some of these crystals are dozens of feet long and weigh tens of tons. The cave's humidity is almost complete, around 99%, and temperatures can reach up to 58 degrees Celsius, which is 136 degrees Fahrenheit. These extreme conditions make it almost too hot for humans to spend more than minutes at a time inside, and special suits with ice packs are needed just to protect researchers. Within the very structure of those crystals, scientists found something extraordinary. Inside tiny, fluid-filled pockets trapped within the crystal structure, they discovered microorganisms that appeared to have survived for an extremely long time, possibly between 10,000 and 50,000 years. These microbes could be revived in the laboratory after being extracted from the crystals, which suggests they were somehow alive, dormant, or suspended inside the crystal for thousands of years, before being awakened by human scientists. The discovery began when scientists, including Penelope Boston, director of the NASA Astrobiology Institute, started studying samples taken from the fluid inclusions deep inside the crystals. In clean laboratory conditions, researchers carefully extracted tiny amounts of the fluid trapped inside the crystal pockets and then placed it in growth media, which are special gel-like substances used to encourage microbial growth. Some of the samples began to metabolize and grow, indicating that the organisms inside were still viable, even after a long period of isolation. What makes this finding particularly remarkable is that these microbes are unlike most life forms known on Earth. When scientists analyzed their DNA and genetic material, they found that these organisms do not closely match previously identified species. Some of these microbes likely survive by feeding on minerals like iron and manganese, rather than organic material or sunlight. That form of metabolism, where organisms make a living using chemical reactions with minerals, is called chemolithotrophy and is very different from the way plants and animals get energy. The microbe's ability to survive in extreme heat, darkness, and isolation is so unusual that scientists describe them as a kind of super life. The crystals themselves act like pods, preserving these organisms in a kind of suspended state. Because the fluid pockets are sealed within the crystal structure, the microbes inside would have had almost no contact with the outside world. This isolation means the microbes could have been living, dormant, or in a state of near inactivity for thousands of years while hidden deep underground. There is still debate among researchers about how exactly these microorganisms survived so long. Some experts question whether contamination from outside sources might have entered the samples during drilling or extraction, but others argue that the unique genetic signatures and the controlled ways in which the samples were collected make it unlikely that the microbes came from anywhere other than inside the crystals. The fact that these organisms seem different from known modern microbes gives weight to the idea that they truly were set apart. The discovery in the Cave of the Crystals has significant implications for science. First, it challenges what scientists thought possible for life in extreme environments. Life, it now seems, can survive conditions that once seemed too hostile. Incredibly hot temperatures, lack of sunlight, and long periods of isolation from the surface world. The fact that these microbes can remain viable inside crystal fluid pockets suggests that life's tolerance for harsh conditions may be higher than previously known. Another remarkable aspect of these ancient microbes is their genetic diversity. When researchers grew the microbes in the lab, they found not just one type of organism, but several distinctly different strains. Some of these strains were so genetically distant from other known microbes that scientists describe them as being as different from known life as humans are from mushrooms. This incredible genetic variation suggests that life in deep underground environments evolves in unique ways, separate from life on the surface. What this discovery shows us is that underground environments are much more alive and dynamic than many people realize. The microbes deep inside the crystals survived because they found a way to extract energy from the minerals around them, adapting to conditions that would be fatal to most other forms of life. In this way, we're reminded that life on Earth is strange, resilient, and sometimes hidden in places we least expect. Their existence opens the door to new questions about how life begins and how it continues to survive. Life in the depths of the dark. In caves that are completely sealed from the surface, such as the famous Muviel cave system in Romania, scientists have discovered a unique ecosystem that is developed on a food web completely independent of sunlight. Instead of plants and algae at the base of the food chain, the foundation of life in this world is chemosynthetic bacteria that get their energy from chemical reactions involving sulfur and methane. These bacteria form thick mats that serve as the primary source of nutrients for other organisms. Above this bacterial layer in Movile Cave, researchers have found many species of animals that live nowhere else on Earth. Because the cave has been sealed for millions of years, life inside it evolved independently from the outside world. Many of these creatures are small, eyeless, and pale because they stopped using eyesight or skin pigmentation after living in complete darkness for so long. These adaptations are common in animals that have spent generations without light. Among the animals discovered within the cave are centipedes, spiders, pseudoscorpions, isopods, nematodes, gastropods, and leeches, each with bodies shaped by long evolution in darkness and toxic air. For example, one of the most famous inhabitants is a carnivorous centipede that preys on other cave animals. Many of these species lack eyes entirely and are nearly translucent. These physical changes are clear signs of adaptation to an environment where eyesight offers no benefit. Another incredible organism found in ancient cave ecosystems is the cave springtail Plutomurus ortobalaganensis, which lived nearly 2,000 meters underground in the Krubera Voronya cave system in Georgia. This tiny arthropod is known as the deepest terrestrial animal ever found on Earth, and it survives in pitch-black depths by feeding on fungi and decomposing organic matter. Its long antennae help it feel its way and sense its surroundings. Inside the waters of Muviel Cave, scientists also found a unique species of water scorpion, Nepa anophthalma, which hunts small aquatic organisms in conditions that would be deadly to most surface animals. Like many cave animals, it lacks eyes and has developed body adaptations that help it survive in low-oxygen water filled with sulfur-oxidizing bacteria. This species acts as a top predator in the cave's aquatic food web. Beyond animals, caves are home to complex microbial communities that scientists are only beginning to understand. The walls and floors of many caves are covered with a variety of microbes, including bacteria, fungi, and protozoa. These microorganisms can live in almost every niche, in water, on rocks, and even within mineral deposits. They carry out chemical reactions that break down rocks and sediments, help form cave features, and recycle nutrients. In some caves, communities of bacteria form what are called snotites, slimy, hanging mats of single-celled organisms that resemble drops of mucus hanging from walls and ceilings. These microbial mats gain energy by oxidizing sulfur compounds such as hydrogen sulfide, a gas that most life finds toxic. The acidic waste these bacteria produce can be so strong that it approaches the strength of battery acid. Yet, within these extreme conditions, they thrive and even support other forms of life that feed on them. Caves can also support a surprising diversity of bacterial types, each with unique ways of getting energy. In underwater or flooded caves, researchers have found bacteria that live off chemical compounds in rock, water, and sediment. Some of these bacteria are chemolithotrophs, meaning they get energy from oxidizing mineral compounds such as iron, manganese, sulfur, or methane. Others behave as organotrophs, consuming organic matter. Together, they create a microbial network that sustains cave ecosystems where sunlight never reaches. Many animals that live in caves have lost their sense of sight and pigment over time because they no longer need them in total darkness, a condition known as troglomorphism. These animals often have enhanced senses of touch or smell that help them navigate and find food. Some, like certain cave salamanders or crayfish, appear almost ghost-like due to their pale bodies and translucent skin. Their lives are shaped by the scarcity of food and the need for efficient energy use. In caves near the entrances, where some light can still reach, more familiar organisms like bats, insects, and spiders also make their homes. Bats, for example, use caves as places to sleep, raise their young, and hibernate. Their droppings, known as guano, provide food for fungi and insects deeper inside the cave. These surface-related visitors play a role in bringing energy into cave systems that otherwise have very little food. Every cave studied by scientists shows a unique mixture of life, often with some species that can't be found anywhere else on Earth. Some cave organisms are incredibly resilient and able to survive extreme changes in their environment. In caves with high humidity and very low oxygen, only specially adapted animals can persist. Many cave dwellers have slow metabolisms and long lifespans, allowing them to make the most of the limited food available. Other caves host unique crustaceans, like those found in underwater lava tube caves near the Canary Islands, which have long antennae and sensory hairs to feel their way through their dark world. How this discovery changes science forever. Scientists do not study caves just because they are mysterious or hidden. They study them because caves help answer big questions about Earth, life, and our history. Questions that we cannot answer from the surface of the planet alone. In many ways, caves are like libraries of Earth's past. Instead of written books, they hold physical clues in their rocks, sediments, fossils, and even in the DNA buried in their soils. These clues help us understand long-term history, climates, unique forms of life, and deep geological processes that shaped our world. One major reason that scientists study ancient and sealed caves is that cave layers preserve information that would be lost outside. On the Earth's surface, external activities break down and destroy evidence from the past. Bones, plant matter, and even genetic material in surface soils quickly disappear or mix with newer material. But inside a cave, especially one that has been sealed from the outside environment for centuries, things can stay protected and intact for incredibly long periods. This is why scientists can extract ancient DNA from cave sediments and learn about animals and people. Caves also serve as natural climate archives. Deep underground, the formation of stalactites and stalagmites, collectively called speleothems, grows slowly over thousands of years as water drips and leaves behind mineral deposits. These mineral rings act much like the rings of a tree, recording tiny changes in the amount and composition of water entering the cave. By carefully measuring the chemical features and isotope ratios trapped inside speleothems, scientists can infer changes in rainfall, temperature, vegetation, and even atmospheric conditions from hundreds of thousands of years ago. Because many caves maintain stable temperature and humidity conditions over long periods, they are especially valuable for research on climate and environmental change. While surface conditions can change rapidly from season to season or decade to decade, caves can buffer many of these fluctuations, providing a more continuous and undisturbed record of conditions over tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. This stability allows delicate climate signatures, such as subtle variations in rain patterns or atmospheric composition, to be preserved in ways that would be lost on the surface. Scientists use this information to test their climate models and improve predictions for future climate change. Also, these records provide long-term climate data that help researchers understand how Earth's climate has changed over deep time and how future climates might behave. Another area where caves have become crucial is in understanding the evolution of ecosystems and species over long periods. Many caves contain fossils, bones, and other remains of plants and animals that lived long before humans. Paleontologists can study them to learn about past ecosystems, what species lived where, and how ecosystems changed over time. Some caves also preserve tiny fossils and pollen, which help reconstruct ancient environments and show how different species responded to environmental stress, migration, or extinction events. Archaeologists also rely on caves to understand the history of humans and their ancestors. Caves have served as homes, shelters, burial places, and sacred spaces for humans for hundreds of thousands of years. They contain tools, clothing fragments, animal bones, hearths, and even cave art, all preserved in conditions that protect delicate materials that would otherwise rot or scatter. Recent advances allow scientists to extract and analyze DNA from cave soils in addition to bones and artifacts, giving them new ways to trace human migrations, interactions between different human species, and how ancient people adapted to environmental change. In some cases, Scientists can even track interbreeding between different hominin species and how ecosystems responded to human activity. Cave studies also contribute to our understanding of biology in extreme and isolated environments. When scientists study how life survives and adapts in these dark places, it expands the understanding of life's limits. Some organisms found in caves live off chemical energy rather than sunlight, offering new examples of life strategies that might be similar to possible life on other planets or moons. By learning how life thrives underground on Earth, scientists can develop ideas for where and how to search for life in extreme conditions elsewhere in the solar system. Scientists also examine caves for insights into geological processes that shape the planet. How caves form, change, and interact with groundwater systems teaches scientists about rock chemistry, mineralogy, water flow, and erosion. The study of cave formation, called speleogenesis, helps geologists understand not just the caves, but the broader landscape evolution and how underground water interacts with surface features like rivers, valleys, and aquifers. These insights are vital for managing water resources and understanding geological hazards. In addition to providing scientific knowledge, cave research contributes to conservation and biodiversity studies. Many caves are home to species that are found nowhere else on Earth. The health of cave ecosystems is often a sensitive indicator of the quality of the surrounding environment, because changes in temperature, water quality, or pollutants on the surface can affect the cave's microclimate and its inhabitants. Research into cave ecosystems can therefore provide early warnings about broader environmental issues that may not yet be obvious from surface measures. Additionally, caves often preserve non-biological records that tell scientists about past geological and environmental events. Layers of sediments in caves can show evidence of ancient floods, droughts, or volcanic activity. The chemical composition of cave deposits can indicate past water chemistry and even past vegetation types in the region above the cave. These archived records can fill gaps in the scientific understanding where other methods, such as lake sediments or ice cores, do not reach. The field of speleology, the scientific study of caves and karst systems, has developed into a cross-disciplinary science that includes geology, biology, chemistry, physics, archaeology, and ecology. By studying caves, scientists connect knowledge from many separate scientific areas and build a more complete picture of Earth's history and the processes that govern life on this planet. In many ways, caves offer scientists a unique window into Earth's past and future that helps answer some of the most challenging questions in science today.